Good evening. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Planning and Zoning meeting for Town of South Windsor for Tuesday, November 15th, 2022. If everyone could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Our order of business tonight, we just have our new business meeting. If anyone has a cell phone, if you could please turn it to vibrate or turn it off, we would appreciate it. And we'll get right into our meeting. Public participation. Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak on something that is not on our agenda tonight? This would be the time. Please step forward. If you could, please make sure your microphone is on. Just push the button on the base of it. And Michelle, could you tilt down her microphone, please? Okay.
Personally, I think you need to lower this.
Very good. And
So
if I could just
works.
remind you that it works best from 3 to 6 inches. If you're too far away, you can't hear it. If you're too close, it gets all muffled.
Very good. Can you
Thank
hear
you.
me now? All right. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. I'm Daria Plummer, very short. I live at 235 Orchard Hill Drive. So Chairman Pasakonis and members of the Planning and Zoning, I've come on 2 reasons. First of all, I want to thank you. I read in the paper yesterday, I believe, in the Journal Inquirer, that we have opened up the Cambria Suites, and I think it is very appropriate that we have a hotel in South Windsor. And you were very much responsible for this, and you pushed long and hard for it, and it has opened, and I think it's a wonderful addition to South Windsor, so I want to thank you for that. On the other hand, I'm here because I'm just frustrated over Geisler's Plaza, which is just terrible. I know that you have spent years on this, and I know that you have gone to mediation, and there are all sorts of legal things in, and I don't know where this stands now. But I'm just telling you, as a resident of South Windsor, I've fought long and hard in support of Geisler's. I was there today. It's the only viable thread left in that plaza, and it's just not pretty at all. I don't live in a part of town where I have to go grocery shopping there. I'm at the other end. I have like 3 that I can go to in less time than I go to Geisler's. But Geisler's is a good South Windsor neighbor. They support so much here, including the Patriotic Commission Veterans banners. They're always helpful to the community center and the seniors. They've just been really, really good neighbors and good people in South Windsor. So I don't know the status, but if there's a compromise to be reached, I urge you to do it. At this point in time, I mean, if it's still the sidewalk issue, from my limited knowledge, the state isn't in favor of that, and neither is our police department. Maybe it's really time to compromise on this somehow, if it can be done. It's costing us money in litigation. That's my tax money. I don't think there is a person in this room or watching tonight who didn't get a reevaluation bill. We're all going to be hit a little harder. We understand that. But this development brings dollars into our community and into our treasury and to our town. And I'm urging you to look at it that way. I just really am distressed for the people in the Geisler's part of town that this is what they have. And I'm sure it's not for your lack of trying, and I know you're trying to move forward on this, but I guess I'm just urging you to move a little harder on it. I also have heard that there are developers who are walking away from us. And I find that incredibly sad, because I did get my reevaluation. And my house, should I sell it, seems to be worth a whole lot more than it was last year. A whole lot more. So I'm just saying this: development denied, development delayed. This tax dollars in our treasury delayed or denied. I don't think you should be doing this. I know it's not your fault personally, but I think as a commission, it's really time to come to a compromise and get something done for Geisler's Plaza. So thank you very much for listening. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll go into our new business. Pardon me? Oh. Please step forward.
Okay, and I'll hand them as, I was advised by the town attorney how to handle this correspondence, and I let the EDC know, so I'll handle how I was advised to handle it by the town attorney.
So tonight I'm sorry, Michelle.
That's okay, I'm just gonna handle it.
Okay, so tonight I'm here as a member of the Economic Development Commission. We
And
met
your
last-
name is?
Oh, I'm sorry, Linda Jeske, and I'm a member of EDC. So tonight I'm talking strictly from a commission point of view.
Okay.
We have a letter that we put together, wanted to present to Planning and Zoning, and I'm just gonna read it through. So dear members of the Planning and Zoning Commission of South Windsor, we as members of the Economic Development Commission respectfully request that the Planning and Zoning Commission meet with the parties involved in the Sullivan Avenue Plaza project to achieve a compromise on the issue holding up progress at this time. The Sullivan Avenue Plaza has been and is an important centerpiece of business and the South Windsor community as a whole. The success of the project supports responsible strategic economic development, generating approximately $554,000 in new tax revenue, and serving as an anchor for future growth and development. The town also stands to collect another approximately $600,000 in permit fees, sewer connection costs. The developers have offered over $30 million, and the Geisler Supermarket, our hometown market, has pledged another $4 million to upgrade and expand their store. We urge you to meet with all the parties involved and find a compromise solution that will allow the project to move forward. Sincerely, the members of the South Windsor Economic Development Commission. And I'd like to just take a moment to talk about a citizen and kind of talk about what Daria said. I have only been in this town for 20 years. Geisler's has always been an eyesore. We have an opportunity here to make it their anchor store, and other development in that area on Sullivan Avenue. So I urge you guys to figure out how we can move forward on this. Taxpayers, I'm on the Board of Assessment of Appeals. I can't imagine what the taxpayers are gonna be, coming to us looking for, because it's really a burden and we have to think about it. So thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Are there any others who would like to speak? Public participation? Hearing and seeing none, we'll move on to our annual organizational meeting. First item is our election of officers. I will open the floor to nominations.
I would like to nominate Bart Passaconis as our chair.
I second.
Okay. Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Any other nominations? Okay, hearing none. I'll be elected, and secretary will cast one ballot for me. We have the office of vice chair.
I'd like to nominate Kevin Foley for vice chair.
Second.
Okay, we have Kevin Foley nominated. Are there any other nominations? Any other nominations? Any other nominations? Okay, nominations are closed. Kevin gets one vote. For secretary,
I'd like to nominate Steve Wagner.
okay, we have Steve Wagner for secretary. Are there any other nominations? It doesn't need to be seconded, but, any other nominations? Any other nominations? Nominations are closed, and the secretary will cast one ballot for Steve Wagner.
I second anyway, Steve.
Okay, that completes election of officers. We have review of our bylaws. Everybody have a chance to review them. Are there any other suggested changes you want to make? Commissioner Cavagnero?
Yes, I would like to make two changes, and one of them I mentioned last year, and I know some people in the commission weren't in favor of it. I figured I'd bring it up a year later. At the time, we were having meetings that were going well past 9:30. I thought it'd be a good idea to change Article 9, Section 3 from 9:30 to 11 p.m., so we don't have to spend 2 minutes of voting to extend the meeting. Honestly, it wouldn't really change anything. If we finish the meeting prior to 11 p.m., then that's that. And if we have business that exceeds 9:30 p.m., we don't have to have a vote to extend the regular meeting. So that is the first one. Do you want me to say the second thing?
Yeah, please.
Thank you. And the second thing is Article 12. I noticed this actually and compared it with the town council agenda. Minutes and town council are often voted before public participation. It seems like almost every meeting we don't have enough time to vote on minutes. I thought it'd be a good idea to move the minutes up right before public participation, so that you know, we have a way to vote on the minutes and we don't have to put them off.
Second.
Okay. Are there any other changes anybody would like to make?
Yes.
Commissioner Wagner?
I think it's unnecessary for us to hold an election of officers annually, so I've already lost a place in Article 8. The annual organization meeting shall be held as part of the first meeting that follows the public election of planning and zoning officials, and it'll be a semi-annual organization meeting, or is it biannual? What's the right word? So I'd like to just do that when we're actually newly elected.
Okay. Any other changes?
Chairman, you had identified two earlier in the year that I just want to bring to your attention. You had mentioned once we had the training requirement that we should put in something related to the planning and zoning training requirement now that there is in the statute. So I did draft a statement that we could put as a new section, or you could figure out where you want to put it, but it requires planning and zoning commissioners complete 4 hours of training every 2 years to conclude 1 hour of fair and affordable housing. Commissioners must satisfy the initial training requirement by January 1, 2024, and with 1 year of election appointment thereafter. And that comes right out of the statute of planning and zoning training. The other thing that was discussed, and again, I just made notes through the year, was whether or not we wanted to establish a time for public hearings ending. We don't have anything that states it, and the building doesn't really tell us we have to close at a certain time. So there was some suggestion of an 11 p.m. end time for public hearings. What you might think of is if you did that, you might have it could be extended by 2/3 majority or something like that if you want to have the flexibility of going later.
Okay. 2-year election. Okay. Are there any other changes that anybody?
Yeah, it's one I was thinking about was for adjourning the meeting. I know we have 7 to 9:30, that can extend it on, but say we have a quorum and we have one of those nights where it's full of people and we're here till 12:30. I just can't do that anymore. All right, I'm not 25 and have to get up at 5 o'clock and go to work like anyone else. I would like to tuck out no later than 10:30 on a given night. So the problem being is that we may not have a quorum if I do have to get up and leave. But at the same time, you don't want to just, hey, see ya, a room full of people. So would like some type of protocol for that. I mean, if we have enough people, somebody would fill my seat and then we go on, and that's fine. But we had a few meetings last year that went on. I think it was 1:30. That was a bit much.
Yep. Okay. So I'll ask one more time. Any other changes? Okay. Then what we will do is we'll address these items one at a time. The first one being the time of the ending of the meetings. And I'll just speak on that. 2.5 hours is a good length for a meeting. I don't think it should just be standard that we could go possibly until 11 o'clock, because that's taxing on a lot of the commissioners. We're all volunteers up here. 2.5 hours, I think, is more than showing our dedication for this committee and our commitment to the town. We do at times extend whenever we need to. It's seldom defeated that we extend the meeting. And I would want, if you just extend it right till 11, then it's going to be expected that we fill up the agenda every night and go till 11. I think that's too taxing. I really do.
Yeah.
After 2.5 hours here, I'm spent. I'm wound up. Don't always get to sleep right away at night. I know a lot of you got to go to work the next morning. I no longer have to go to work the next morning, but still got to get up, go for a walk and stuff. So,
Yeah, I have to be at work at 5, so I'm good with 9:30.
yeah. But that was motioned and seconded. So unless there's any other discussion, I'll call it to a vote.
Wait a minute, I noticed that article says that we start at 7:30, and we actually start at 7.
Did we get an old copy? What article is that, Steve?
Article 9, section 3.
Mine says 7.
It says
I
7.
guess I
7
got
to
it.
9:30.
I got the old one. Okay, great. Yeah, I guess even though I seconded it, that just means I'm willing to discuss it. Okay. I like keeping the hours that we have. I don't think we've ever had a problem extending it when we need to. I also like the idea of applying a similar time to public hearings, but we can make that a separate discussion since that's not part of the motion.
Okay.
And then the changing the order of the agenda, I think it makes a lot of sense because it's really nice to know that the record of what happened in a previous meeting is what we're considering when we go on to have the discussion the next meeting. So I like the idea of moving the minutes earlier in the agenda.
Well, the meeting minutes are a record. If you put them up before public participation, it's almost like you're inviting the public to rehash the minutes, when that's not the purpose of us approving the minutes. It's our record and making corrections to that record. So I'm not in favor of changing when we do the minutes.
Yeah,
Commissioner Terry?
I agree. I'm not in favor of it, but somewhat because the public comes here to present their public opinion, and then oftentimes they have other places to be. And so I think, we need to let them speak first, and we can deal with the minutes later in the meeting. I do think that, it's a courtesy to those people who are coming to speak to us that we hear them out. And minutes, if we have to pass on the minutes, we can.
Yeah. Alan, you have your microphone on. Did you have something you wanted to say about this?
Yeah, no, I was just willing to offer compromises for both. I don't mind, instead of 11, we could put 10 in the language. Most times meetings go till roughly 10, and that could accomplish both the goal and 30 extra minutes there. And then Article 12, they don't necessarily have to be before we can do right after public participation too. Like I said, it just seems like minutes are always put off every single meeting, and again, they don't have to be before public participation. If it feels the commission wants to do them right after that, it takes 30 seconds. That's just my thoughts on it.
Yeah, and
I'll accept those two changes as a seconder.
okay, Commissioner Dexter?
Well, yes, Commissioner Wagner kind of took my thunder here. I think, why don't we just go to 10? It's a little compromise, and like Alan said, we always probably end up going till 10 anyway. And as far as the minutes goes, I like the minutes to be timely. I'm sure Caitlin does too, and it's something that goes up on our website for everybody to read. So not addressing them at every meeting because we're late could be, you know, a transparency issue too. So I vote we get them done every meeting.
Okay. Did anybody else have any other discussion? How do the other commissioners feel about it?
I would like to stick our times to 9:30, because there are some of us that do have to, you know, get on the next day pretty early, so.
Okay, before we vote on this, we should hear from all the commissioners, whether or not, I mean, right now, from what I'm hearing, it's either move it to 10 o'clock or keep it at 9:30 with the possibility of extensions. Commissioner Viteri?
This is like the end of my first year being here, and I think my first 5 meetings all went till 11, 12, 1 o'clock. And then I understand what Alan is saying. It's just, it keeps being this formality, let's extend the meeting, let's extend the meeting. If we're going to be here till 10 o'clock anyway, it doesn't hurt us to change this to say 10 o'clock. It doesn't mean we have to be here till 10 o'clock. It just allows us to go to 10 o'clock without having to stop the meeting, change the whole tempo of the meeting and go back in. So as far as I'm concerned, I would like to see it go to 10 o'clock. I think that's just a fair compromise.
Okay, Commissioner LeBlanc?
All right.
I was just gonna say that I like the proposal of 10 p.m. to be extended to 10:30 if needed, and then move the meeting minutes up after public participation. That makes sense.
Okay, well, we're going to address these separately. Well, right now, and Commissioner Quirishi, I'm going to seat you, oh, no, wait a minute, how many we got here? 2, 4, 6, 7, we have 7, okay. I noticed Commissioner Bernstein is gone, but he's not a sitting member. I want to make sure we get that right. Okay, so what I'm going to do is call for a vote on the time. And it'll be all those in favor of changing the ending time to 10 p.m. Aye or nay? Okay?
Aye.
So I'll call that now. All those in favor of changing the end time to 10 p.m., say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Nay.
Aye.
Let's have a roll call, please.
Commissioner Cavagnaro,
Aye.
Commissioner Viteri, Commissioner LeBlanc,
Nay, but I'm okay with special exceptions that go longer, as we have done.
Commissioner Foley,
Nay.
Chairman Pasiconis,
Nay.
Commissioner Wagner,
Aye.
Commissioner Dexter,
Aye.
Commissioner Carey. No?
No.
Even though for bylaws?
Okay. I'm counting the vote, 4 in favor of changing to 10 p.m., 3 against, so that motion passes. We will change it. Our next thing was the minutes. I understand it's good to get them done each meeting when possible. but it's also not our highest priority. Our highest priority is try and complete our business. And a lot of times, we're already running late on these meetings, whether it be 11 or whatever. So I can always do a better job at calling the minutes. But generally, if we get done with the meeting, the way our bylaws read now, the meeting's over at 9:30 unless it's extended. So that will be changed to 10 p.m. But right now, there's a motion to move the meeting minutes up earlier. And that's not really something I'm in favor of. I'll let the other commissioners speak. Commissioner Foley?
I like it the way we have it. Like you said, let's get the participation, let's get on with the meeting. We all, and then do the minutes at the end.
Yes, some of it is, we could really get bogged down with things, and there's applicants, like there are tonight, that want to get on to business, and we're hashing over minutes. Yeah, granted, a lot of times it is a quick approval, but it's not always. But Commissioner Dexter?
Oh,
Commissioner Cavagnero?
Yeah, and I'd also just like to add, we have residents and citizens here, and again, if minutes get put off and delayed, they take 30 seconds to pass. For a resident that wants to know what's going on with the meeting, let's say G Media isn't working and they can't watch, or they don't have a computer, they rely on the minutes. So at the very least, taking 30 seconds right after public input to come to a general consensus, or maybe change one or two things on minutes, so people have the availability to read them 2 weeks prior to when they get passed. I don't see any harm in it. So that's all I have to say. It's for transparency, essentially.
Okay. Anyone else want to speak? Okay. When were you suggesting that we move the minutes up till? Because I want to...
Yeah, we can do it right between public participation and new business.
That's the way the motion is also.
Okay. Okay. So the motion is to move the reading of the minutes or approval of the minutes up after public participation before new business. Again, I'll call it, all those in favor will say aye of doing that, and those against will say nay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Nay.
Nay.
Okay, let's have a roll call.
Commissioner Cavagnero,
Aye.
Commissioner Patiri,
Aye.
Commissioner LeBlanc, Commissioner Foley,
Nay.
Chairman Pasiconis,
Nay.
Commissioner Wagner,
Aye.
Commissioner Dexter.
aye.
Okay, that motion passes 5-2. Okay, our next item, and I've got Steve talked about the 2-year for the election versus annually for our officers. Again, that's not something I'm necessarily in favor of, because our election cycle is every 4 years we elect 4 officials, and every 4 years we elect 3 officials. And depending on when that happens, I'm just worried that we could miss something as far as the ability of, because you're talking about being able to change the majority only every 4 years.
Every 2 years is the intent.
Well, it all depends on the election cycle. Like this cycle coming up, or the next year, I do not believe it's possible to change the majority.
Okay, but I don't see the point of why we had to have election of officers this year when neither group is up for reelection or election. You know, you can change the majority on either one of those elections depending on who's sitting at any given time. So I'm really just saying it's another thing that takes up time. And we're probably taking more time now discussing it than we would have spent in the next 4 years, but I just think it doesn't make sense. You know, we got a new election next year, maybe very well be the same people, who knows? But we ought to do the election of officers after the public election and not bother to do it in between.
Okay, so when are you proposing this happens? Just so I'm clear.
We were talking about a biannual, so it'd be every other year is what you're talking about. Yeah, so after, whenever there's a planning and zoning election that occurs, it would follow that election. Am I?
So it would be effective next year?
Yeah, we'd reelect officers next year and then 2 years later.
And then 2 years later, correct.
Okay.
The ZBA, for example, has that. I believe that was something they instituted.
Excuse me?
The Zoning Board of Appeals instituted that a couple years for the same reason, that they didn't get appointments, you know, following appointments. So.
Okay. Commissioner Cavagnero.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say that we have local elections every odd year, so it could just be worded that election of officers every odd year. That's how it usually is whenever there is a planning and zoning election. That's how it could get worded in this case. But no, like I said, I agree with Commissioner Wagner on this. I was going through the bylaws earlier. I wasn't sure why we did it every year. I was kind of surprised to see we're electing new officers today. But no, that's essentially it. You know, do it every odd year or once every 2 years. That's what it would be. But yeah, that's essentially it. There's nothing that happened this year to change anything. So yeah, that's it.
Okay. Anybody else want to speak on this? Hearing and seeing none. Did you put that in the form of a motion or no? Okay. And it was seconded? Okay. So I will just call the motion. All those in favor of changing the election of officers to the odd years, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Okay. We've still got a few others. We have, and I might get them out of order. Michelle had mentioned the training, and is that something you want to, and I'm actually doing this not by the bylaws, and I apologize, but the bylaws say if you want to make a change, you have to talk about it and then vote on it at the next meeting.
We don't actually have the final language, so it probably makes sense to see the final language.
I could draft a red line for you based on what you decide tonight.
Okay. So for
could
the
include
training
that,
one,
sure.
you could do one also? Okay, thank you. We had end of the public hearing, what time? I think that's an important thing. We've also need to think about the town staff that actually records these meetings too. And I guess, you know, the public out there, the ones that are passionate about what's happening with a public hearing, probably wouldn't mind watching it till after 11 or something, but it does make sense to put a cap on it for a time. And the suggested time was, I believe 11, maybe Michelle, you said that, but I think Mike had suggested 10:30. So if we could hash that over for a minute. There wasn't a motion put on the floor on that, but what's the feelings of the commission? Commissioner Foley?
I think 10:30 is fair enough to get in what they have to get in, and then we have other business to take care of after the fact, so.
Okay.
I think one of the most
Agreed.
important things of a body like ours is its transparency. And when you're getting input or doing any business, including listening to the public, 10:30, 11:30, 12:30, because we don't have any way of ending a public hearing, I think that's a mistake, and it really goes against the concept of being transparent. So I very much am in favor of limiting the time of the public hearings. We can continue them to the next meeting if we have to.
Yeah, to what time?
I'm willing to go with anything.
To what?
Anything that everyone else wants. 10:30, yeah, okay.
Okay. Anything else, commissioners? If not, we'll put it in some text, and we'll vote on that at our next meeting. Was there any others that I missed that I didn't write down? Okay. Okay, so we'll address that at our next meeting. Okay, our last thing under annual organization is we have a list of our meetings. I reviewed it, I didn't see any conflicts. Anybody else review it and find any conflicts? If not, we'll accept it by consensus.
The only
Commissioner
thing
Dexter?
sorry.
Sorry.
I just wanted to ask, because I did not do the homework on this, when you looked at Monday holidays, when the town council might be meeting, and then they sometimes meet on a Tuesday, either the next week or whatever, there's no,
We don't have any conflicts like that, I don't believe.
Okay,
We checked
thank-
that, yeah. Right, Caitlin?
Commissioner LeBlanc?
Yeah, it's not Valentine's Day was on there.
Yeah,
People with grandkids, spouses, all that. It's, you know.
what do you say, Michael?
February 14 is,
Yeah, well, what's your suggestion
Yeah, just to move that date
to,
before or after.
okay, I'm just going to 2023 on my calendar here.
If you do that, you will create a problem with town council.
Or just take it off.
'Cause-
yeah.
Yeah,
Because we have both a holiday on the 13th and the 20th here at Town Hall, so, yeah, it does run into a little bit of a problem.
ouch.
okay.
Just have to take our spouses out at 10 o'clock, right?
It'll have to be, we'll see if we can't schedule
One of
the
those
shorter
1:30
meetings.
nights, Valentine's Day.
Okay. Steve, did you have,
Oh. I guess if it does create a problem if we try to move the date by a week. Personally, the two of us sometimes compromise on that date and do it another day, so I don't know.
okay. If there's no objections, we'll adopt them by consensus. Agreed? Okay. All right. That concludes our organizational meeting. We'll move into our other new business, which is application, or first one is application 22-36P, Prime Materials Recovery. Do we have somebody here for the applicant?
You sure do.
Good evening.
Hello, does this thing go?
Is your microphone on?
Say, oh, it's starting up, okay.
Okay.
I have to get closer?
Yeah, 3 to
Is that
6
better?
inches are best.
Is that better? I guess I forgot how to do this.
I'm still not hearing you too well.
You're
I
not
don't know
hearing
if-
me?
Maybe,
Really?
maybe it's the shields, but,
I'll talk loud.
thank you.
You're welcome. Good evening. I am Suzanne Choate, professional engineer in the state of Connecticut with Design Professionals. I have quite a team with me here today representing this application. Thank you, Daniel. It's my first time at this particular podium, so pardon me if I mess something up. Daniel Jameson is here with me. Glenn Martin, landscape architect, is here. Peter DeMalley. I also have Alan Lamson, architect, and Brian and Justin Schilberg and Doug Carabio from Prime Materials. And Aaron and Alex Ansaldi, the contractors, are here as well. So we brought quite a group with us. The development that we are talking about today is on 444 Nutmeg Road North. The proposed facility is the colored-in portion on the exhibit you're looking at. And that perpendicular street is Governor's Highway. It's a little hard to read. So Nutmeg Road North runs north and south, and then Governor's Highway is east-west on that. The access point is on Nutmeg Road North, and that is not changing. The proposed building is approximately 32,000 square feet. There is an existing building on the site. It is that white-roofed building toward the front of the property. And I'm going to take a short break talking about the site here. I'd like to ask Brian Schilberg to come up and tell you a little bit about what they do.
Thank you, Suzanne. Everybody hear me?
You can lift that microphone up onto the high podium. There. Great.
Thanks for having me tonight. My name is Brian Schoberg. I'm with Prime Materials Recovery. I'm the VP of Operations. Talk a little bit about our company and who we are and what we're trying to accomplish on this site here. Prime Materials Recovery is a fourth-generation family business. I'm one of the family members. My cousin Justin is over here. My father and my uncle Bernie and Nate Schoberg are still heavily involved in the company. They're South Windsor, currently live in South Windsor. I was born and raised in South Windsor. Philip R. Smith to Timothy Edwards to South Windsor High School. Played all kinds of sports in high school. Went on to Quinnipiac, got a degree in finance. When I graduated my degree in finance, there was a logistics position open in our company. I had a heart-to-heart with my dad. I didn't necessarily want to go right into the business, but he convinced me, I guess is the correct word, to come into the business. And growing up in it and working in it my entire life, after a long talk with him and my brothers that are also involved, I decided to join the business. That was many years ago. Since I joined the business out of college, we've expanded greatly. We have three main Prime Materials facilities, one in Willimantic, Connecticut, Orangeburg, South Carolina, and Canastota, New York, where we primarily do wire chopping. So we process the General Cables of the worlds, the Southwire of the worlds, the big wire manufacturing companies in the country. We process all their scrap wire. We turn that into aluminum chops and copper chops, and we actually own a company called IMC Metals America down in Shelby, North Carolina, where we manufacture small copper anodes, and we make copper rod. The anodes are for the electroplating industry, sold all over the country, into Asia, into Europe. We manufacture copper rod there, which goes right back into the wire and cable industry. We also own a company called JLJ International, which is a non-ferrous export company based in New Jersey, Jersey City, New Jersey. Allied Metals, which is down in Miami, Florida. We bought Allied Metals to kind of get involved into the South American scrap game down there. We import a lot of scrap from South and Central America. I've always pushed to be able to run that division so I can move to Miami, but as you can see, I'm here, so that has not worked out well so far. Fluoropolymer Resources is in Willimantic, Connecticut. They're a high-temp plastic. They have a little chop line there where they chop copper wire, and it's actually called a fluoropolymer. It's an FEP-type cable that they chop off of it. We recycle the copper, and then the plastic is actually re-extruded and put back into the wire and cable industry. It's a high-temp plastic, so it won't catch fire. It'll just smoke. It's used in all building wire and types of cables now. Florigistics is a company that's in Delaware. We are the sole distributor of Chemours Teflon plastics at our warehouse down in Delaware. And then our big project that we just started actually casting about 2 months ago was we opened up groundbreaking and built the thing. We partnered with a company in Spain called Cunex Copper. It's called Ames Copper Group. It's the first custom copper smelter in the United States since the 1990s. What we do there is we melt 90 to 95% copper scrap, refine it into 98.7% copper anodes. I've mentioned copper anodes prior. Copper anodes that we do at Metals America is much smaller. Used in the electroplating industry, like I mentioned. These copper anodes are actually sent up to a refinery, and they're actually refined then down electrolytically to pure copper. So we're taking lower grade copper and we're actually refining it back into a copper cathode, which is in theory a pure copper. That brings me to GNS Scrap, our property here that we're talking about tonight. We bought GNS Scrap back in 2018 from Bob and Dave Smith. Bob Smith we've known for years. Dave Smith I went to high school with. Josh Viteria I also went to high school with. So it was, but we bought it because of the potential. Very well organized scrap yard. We got into the ferrous business, which is steel, through GNS Scrap by buying this facility here. The reason that we're looking to build this building is for processing, easier processing under a roof. Doesn't matter what the weather is. And just to keep a well-organized, scrap yard. When I joined the business prior to, I'll tell you a quick funny story, prior to meeting my wife was a school teacher in Colchester, and she had a coworker that knew the Schilberg name. My parents both grew up in Willimantic, where one of our yards is, and when she found out, when my wife, girlfriend at the time's coworker, found out that she was dating a Schilberg, the first thing he said was, "Oh wow, you must they wasn't on that junkyard over there, right?" Well, as you can see, scrap's a little bit more than just a junkyard. There's a little bit more that we do than just throw trash everywhere, right? That's who we are. That's what we're trying to accomplish with this building. Just for ease of processing, for cleaning up the areas. Going to bring probably about 10 to 15 more jobs to the area. That's really who we are. And if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, we'll ask questions a little later.
Sure thing.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to move into the building elevation.
Yeah, do you want to drop that microphone back down?
I
Susan?
can't, it's too,
Thank you.
okay. How do you change the, do you have the, up just, Yeah. How are we doing that? Oh, okay. Thank you, thank you. All that for me to pass it off to Alan Lamson to talk about the building.
Thank you.
He probably could have done that without me, I bet, change the picture.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. For the record, I'm Alan Lamson, Vice President of FLB Architecture and Planning in Manchester, here tonight to assist in the presentation regarding the architecture. The building is a single-story, U-shaped building. You can see that on the site plan when they talk to you about the site plan. It is a pre-engineered metal building. We are constructing a 4-foot wall around the base of it, and the engineered building would sit up higher on that for a couple of reasons. The most important of which is to protect the building from damage from any activities within the building, and also to protect from yard maintenance outside, mowers that tend to throw stones and things like that put dents in the metal, and it starts to look not so good. The building is primarily used, it's one large space inside used for storage primarily and part of their processing. In the corner, it would be the southwest corner of the building. There is a small area that will include some offices, a conference room, 2 sets of toilets, one for the employees in the office area and one for the people who are coming and going with their trucks outside the building. Other than that, the rest of the building is used for storage and processing. The building at its highest point is 22 feet high, and it's 20 feet high at the eave, which means the inside is roughly 18 feet clear, all one story. The access to the building is primarily from the west and north side of the building. In other words, if you're on Governor's Highway looking at it, it would be on the left side and around on the side that's interior to the site. There is one door on the south side that is there solely to meet the building code requirements for fire egress out of the building, and there is one building on the east side that is only there to meet the requirements for egress. Other than that, all access is internal to the site. If you, can we go to the next one?
Probably.
There we go. Nope.
No.
One way, okay. So this is a section taken through the site. This is on Design Professionals' site. I stole their section. But you can see in the photograph on the bottom right, if you're on Governor's Highway, the section where the building is, that is the buffer and the berm that currently exists. And they've tried to show that on the section above, and we have superimposed the building there. And you can see that, one, the building is significantly lower than the buffer in height. The buffer is a mixture of evergreens and deciduous trees. This photograph was taken in late October, early November, when most of the leaves were off the deciduous trees. Looking at that buffer from Governor's Highway, you really can't see through the buffer. And any places where you can, it's a very small area amongst the branches. So what we've done is we are using a combination of gray colors on the building. And the thought is that if you do look through and see an opening anywhere in that buffer, what you're going to see behind it is a fairly neutral gray color, not some bright yellow or beige or something like that. The gray color also helps a great deal in an industrial building like this in the outside maintenance. It doesn't show dirt as easily. It just stands up better to blending in with the site. So that's the reason that we used it. We did add, and you can see it. Okay, can I go back one? I admit I don't understand technology. That's good. What we did do on the side towards Governor's Highway and up the other two sides of the building is we have added a 16-inch high accent strip, which will be a relief on the building. And the purpose of that is to help to reduce the scale of the building if you can see it. It'll make it feel like it's a lower building than having one straight vertical wall. There's some glazing you can see on the southwest corner. That's where the offices and the conference room is. And other than that, we have overhead doors on the west side of the building. You'll see that on the site plan. And then in the center of the U on the top elevation, there's a recess there in the U, and there is an overhead door in there to, again, allow access directly from their yard into the building without having to go around. But that is undercover. It has a cover over the top of it. It is outside space, but it is covered. And that's the building.
Thank you. So this is a closer view of the site plan itself. And we are showing, so if you look along Governor's Highway, you can see that existing vegetative, it's not actually a buffer, but it's a vegetative screen existing. We are showing one swath through there that is where the utilities will enter from Governor's Highway. And Glenn Martin will speak a little bit more further on about how we're screening that small portion that will be cleared. We will be replacing the berm there. There is an existing berm there, and we'll replace that when the utilities are installed. So along with the building, you can see the U-shape, that square box in the middle is the overhead cover where it's open. That one side is open, but it's a covered pavement. The lighter colored is concrete, so the loading docks are over on that west side with a sidewalk along the side. There are 10 truck parking spaces westerly of that toward our detention area. There's a small garage that is shown as well. That is the brown square at the bottom of the truck parking. And we're showing 17 parking spaces. There 31 are in reserve. They're shown in the dashed lines northerly of the building. In the 17 parking spaces, we have 1 accessible space. We have 2 level 2 EV spaces, 3 level 2 ready spaces, which my understanding is what is required by the regulations. We have been to wetlands. We have approval from them. We were before architectural design review and had a favorable response from them as well. We have received some town staff comments that we will comply with or will address in revised plans. The fire marshal asked for a hydrant. Just going to go through them briefly before I pass the presentation on to a little bit more engineering. So fire hydrant will be added. We will provide a deed combining the 2 lots. That was a planning comment. The grading will be modified in that utility area to reestablish the berm. Approximate location of the emergency spill response equipment, that is shown on the northerly side of the gray there. There's a box. I don't know if you can read that, but. So the location is shown. The owner is working with Cindy Knight from ESI to develop a spill response countermeasure plan for town review and approval. I did want to mention that there are no floor drains in the building, and we will provide a sanitary manhole, monitoring manhole easement. There is a manhole proposed near the right-of-way on Governor's Highway. And one other engineering comment was to clarify some existing contours that we're happy to take care of. I'm going to pass the presentation on to Daniel Jameson for a little more technical information.
Thank you, Suzanne. For the record, I'm Daniel Jameson, Project Manager at Design Professionals and Professional Engineer in the state of Connecticut. And as Suzanne mentioned, talking about a little more technical engineering features to stormwater management to accommodate the proposed building and impervious areas. In order to do that, we did evaluate the existing topography of the site and identified 4 discharge points. Our first design point was an existing 30-inch culvert that crosses the existing site driveway. That flows into a wetland pocket here that further conveys water underneath Nutmeg Road onto the Stoughton Brook. There was a second design point identified along the shared boundary line with 400 Governor's Highway. The third design point was flow just from this berm that would sheet flow directly into Governor's Highway. And then there was another 4th design point identified at the northern corner or northeast corner of the existing gravel area there. Review of the online mapping from University of Connecticut, CT Echo, indicated that the flow to Governor's Highway ultimately discharges to the Newberry Brook, and whereas the flow that would cross, as I said, goes to the Stoughton Brook. So to attenuate peak runoff conditions caused by the development, we are proposing a water quality basin at the southwest corner of the site. That is indicated here. This water quality basin was sized to ensure that the net peak flow rate leaving the site will be less than existing conditions. The water quality basin was also designed with a wet pool volume capable of storing over 100% of the determined water quality volume for the area draining to it as recommended in the 2004 Connecticut Stormwater Quality Manual. We are also proposing store bays at discharge points. We have 2 leak-offs proposed to collect the runoff from the main trailer space area, and then we have 2 other discharge points, one that will collect roof runoff, and another that's going to collect runoff from catch basin proposed just outside of that open area that that Suzanne was mentioning in Allen, and that also will collect roof runoff and discharge it to the water quality basin there. For erosion controls, we are proposing anti-tracking pad at where the new pavement will start. Silt fence along the downhill portion of the proposed disturbance. We will do hay bales at all the inlets, and stockpile areas are also indicated on the plan. And we designed the water quality basin to temporarily serve as a temporary sediment trap during construction. Riprap aprons and preformed scour holes at the discharge points of the basins are also proposed. Those measures, the permanent measures and temporary measures, were all designed based on the 2002 erosion and sedimentation control guidelines. With that, I will pass it over to our project landscape architect, Mr. Glenn Martin, here for any questions. Thank you.
Good evening, Glenn Martin, landscape architect with Design Professionals. And I'll go over the landscaping with you. As was mentioned, an existing tree buffer will remain between the proposed development and Governor's Highway in this area right here. It is approximately 50 feet wide, and the vegetation is a dense mix of deciduous and evergreen trees. Some of the trees will need to be cleared for utility installations. Therefore, we are proposing evergreen arborvitaes to screen the water quality basin and the rear of the property. So the evergreen screen would be right here between the basin and that utility corridor. We're also proposing an arborvitae screen along the western property line to screen the basin and trailer parking. So that screen would be located along the property line right here to screen the basin. We are proposing 5 shade trees in the parking areas. There are little leaf lindens and hunting locust trees. They are provided in the proposed parking lot islands. The water quality basin will be seeded with a native seed mix. The seed mix is a variety of native flowers and grasses. The seed mix will include pollinators such as swamp milkweed and New England asters. So the entire basin will be seeded with a native seed mix. A wetland creation area is provided on the north side of the water quality basin, in that area right there on the north. Additional pollinator plants are proposed there. These plantings will provide additional wildlife habitat for birds and small animals. For lighting, we're proposing lighting in the trailer parking and loading dock area. 25-foot high light pole fixtures are proposed in these areas, and they're all full cutoff fixtures. Lighting wall packs are also proposed in the new building. These will also be full cutoff fixtures, and all light fixtures will have a slim, modern profile. At this point, we'd be happy to answer any of your questions. Thank you.
Okay, does that complete your presentation?
Yes, yes it does.
Yes.
Okay. Then at this time, we'll turn to our town staff, our Director of Planning, Michelle Leip.
Thank you. This is an application that's requesting a site plan modification to add about, I heard 32,000 square foot building and associated parking on property located at 444 Nutmeg Road and 410 Governor's Highway in the industrial zone. GNF Scrap Metal, now Prime Materials, operated from the site since 2008 was when their original approval was granted. The site is entirely surrounded by industrially zoned land. The nearest residential property is about 900 feet to the east. And this property actually extends all the way to the east if you look at the property boundaries on that. I think we heard the current activities that are going on site. Again, this has been going on since 2008, the recycling of scrap metals and things like that. The original storage yard was approved about an acre in size. I think it's kind of morphed and grown a little bit over the years, so this site plan will kind of take in some of the areas of this site that weren't previously part of the operations and again, a new building and restructuring some of the stuff that's out on the site. They are proposing, you have a really good screening along Governor's Highway. We worked with them to keep that in place to the maximum extent possible. The swath, I think it's going to be more about a 40-foot swath. Will have to go in there with utilities. They will be supplementing some arborvitaes back into that area to provide some screening. We did want to make sure that the berm that had been there previously does get reestablished, and I think they're going to reflect that on revised plans for us. I didn't have mention of the chain link fence. My understanding is there's a chain link fence currently out there that will continue to be extended, and that's along the Governor's Highway frontage. And I believe it's 8 feet high and has screens in it. Is it a slatted fence? It's not a slatted fence. Okay, so it is just a chain link fence around the Governor's Highway frontage. This site is picking up about a 1 acre piece to the west. So as part of this site plan, we would be looking for a new deed to be filed to incorporate it into one new property there. We'll also be working with the applicant on giving them some new numbers as far as an address for our 911 system. Access to the site will remain from Nutmeg Road North at this time. They are providing 17 new parking spaces in the area of the new building. They're showing us 31 spaces in reserve to meet our parking requirements. They're also showing 10 trailer parking spaces to the west there that are about 10 to 25 feet in length. They provided provisions as required for EV charging stations. Our building official did comment, and they are addressing his comment. There is a no building code related to EV charging requirements that was just enacted, so they will be accommodating the handicap space as required through that, as well as the number that we require. The site is currently serviced by public water and sewer. The Water Pollution Control Authority will be required for the new sewer connection. The fire marshal has reviewed these plans. As indicated, he's looking for another fire hydrant to be placed in the interior of the site. The design review has reviewed the plans and the materials at their meeting on November 3rd, I'm sorry, and they did pass a favorable recommendation to the commission. The inland wetlands regulation were committee approved this on November 2nd. They have 2 bonds that they're requiring, a $5,000 bond for erosion sedimentation and a $20,000 bond for stormwater structures. They did require that an emergency spill plan be submitted to the staff for review and approval, and again, we would reiterate that as far as an approval condition for this commission. If this is approved, there's a couple approval conditions we'd recommend, and that the one is the deed combining the properties, emergency spill plan, and that a parking calculation should be shown on the plan that takes in the whole site. They just address the new addition, but we would be looking for a complete accounting of the parking, because there was some modifications and waivers with the first approval. And the engineering, they did address all the comments. Jeff Doolittle did give me an email indicating that with the revised plans that are coming in, he will be satisfied with the comments.
Okay, thank you very much. At this time, I will open it up to commissioners. Commissioner Cavagnero?
Yes, thank you. I just have 1 or 2 quick comments or questions with this new proposed facility. I'm curious for whoever could answer the potential hours of operation for this facility. I usually ask this question for most of these projects. I'm just curious.
If we could, at the microphone, please.
6 to 4.
6
a.m. to 4 p.m.
Gotcha, and that includes the weekends, or is the weekends off?
They currently operate Saturday mornings, 6 to 12.
6 to 12, okay, cool. And the next point I had, which was to point 3, I was just curious about, and again, I like to ask this stuff to put on the record. It mentions, of course, scrap metal recycling and other processing. I'm curious, like, how much noise that generates. I know residential, it's more than 900 feet away. I'm just curious.
So the noise level with the new building will remain identical to what's currently operating on that site. If anything, it's going to move some of the processing inside, so the noise level should, in theory, go down.
Oh, that's perfect. Awesome, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, Commissioner Viteri.
No, I have no comments. I was just noticing the drawing that was handed out to us with all the trucks just laying out there in the open and everything versus this, and just seems to be a nice step in the right direction for cleaning up this whole area, and that's about it.
Okay, Commissioner LeBlanc?
Yeah, it's a quick question. Is this a cold storage building, or is it heated and non-insulated? All right.
Microphone, please.
Cold.
All right, it's cold storage. Will it have
Do you-
insulation inside the walls, or at least bad insulation inside of it?
Yes.
All right, so looking for mitigation of sound when you're cutting and doing and all that. A non-insulated building would amplify it, so
Sure.
that's all I'm looking for. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Foley.
I have no comment.
Commissioner Wagner.
I think, Ms. Leip, you answered one of my questions was, is the EV charging plan consistent both with our regulations and with the new building code?
It will be with the revised plan they're submitting. They're addressing the building inspector's question.
Okay, because we probably need to look at our own regulations to make sure that they're consistent with the building code, or whether we even need that part anymore.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. What, if someone,
I think Peter DeMalley for record, I think there may be a conflict between your new zoning regulations and the building code. We were using your regulations as standard, so we'll modify those.
I think it's related to the handicap parking space, that you needed to add another one. You can't just use it as an EV one when you, so we'll look at it with Mark, the chief building official and I were looking at it together, so we'll resolve it.
and maybe also
And if we
look
need a
at,
text amendment, then I'll certainly bring it forward to the commission.
that's great, yeah.
We will do what's required
Yeah, okay.
in that resolution.
So what processes will be going on in the new building?
So there'll be some shears for just cutting metal. There'll be a small briquetter, and we'll just be briquetting things like
I didn't understand that last small what?
a briquetter. So what it does is it transforms like copper wire or plated copper wire into small bricks, and then we stack them and ship them in
Okay.
brick form.
So you make small ingots of
Similar to an
or
ingot.
bricks or
Not
something,
melted.
yeah.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
not melted yet. So
So
it's,
does this process generate any air pollution of any type?
no,
Okay.
absolutely not.
And do you process plastics in this at all?
No.
Okay. There've been some history of towns in Connecticut where the plastic processing was a huge issue. Okay, let's see. So you have a spill area. What is it that could be spilled into the spill area? What are you worried about?
Hello, Mr. Wagner. Next to the approximate location of the temporary spill response equipment, I'll zoom in on it. There's an existing fuel tank, so we are, the owner, or Brian, and is open to working with ESI to put together an emergency spill plan. In the event that a spill does occur, they'll have the equipment there to take care of it. And so, yeah, that's it. It's just to accommodate the existing fuel pump that is currently on site.
Okay, so you're worried about basically diesel fuel being spilled? Yeah, okay. Those are all my questions. Thank you.
May I just elaborate on that for a minute?
Yeah.
So our clients did engage ESI from South Windsor, which is, of course, DEP's response firm, and they're right around, right here in South Windsor, in case there's ever a spill. But they were going to go above and beyond what's required. You have to be a larger operation in order to kick into where it's required to do this type of activity, but they're going to have a plan that ESI developed, is going to develop under contract, a plan for this, and there'll be training of the staff in this. And it's normally not required for this small of an operation, but they're going to be trained in how to respond if, in the event there were a small spill, even though this is a small fuel facility. So they're going above and beyond that, and they're going to actually have a concrete pad for it. So that's going to be worked out with town staff, and that was a condition of approval. We agreed to that for the Inland Wetlands Agency when they unanimously approved this.
Okay, so maybe I should just follow up. This is an above-ground tank, or is this a submerged tank?
Is it above ground? Yeah, it's all above ground, double wall, yeah.
Okay, that's all I had. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Dexter.
No questions.
Commissioner Carey. Okay, Commissioner Quarishi?
No questions.
Okay.
I forgot to ask one quick question. I was curious on point 5, it notes that there is an existing chain link fence. I'm curious how old that current chain link fence is because it notes that it's going to be extended. I'm just curious on that.
I believe that dates roughly 2008? Yeah, so roughly 10 years old.
Okay.
It's done under the prior ownership.
Gotcha. I'm just curious about that because I know with some old fences, either chain link, they'll rust, there may be some missing parts. It's still in good condition, I assume.
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Otherwise, they'd be replacing it. Yeah.
Okay. My understanding on the building is it's going to be used for storing and processing material, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. In the past, you've had, in reading the report from town staff, you had about an acre of storage area outside storage for, that has grown over the years?
That was done under prior ownership.
Okay.
They acquired it in
Yep,
2018.
that's fine.
Yep.
I'm just wondering how much of that is going to be stored inside this building and what is going to be left? Is there still going to be outdoor storage of material out there?
Yeah, yes, there is, but do you want to elaborate on that?
I'm wondering if it'll be less or,
So when we bought it, there was a bunch of what I'll call junk hanging around there that we've cleaned up, and reason for putting up a building is the junk was just old parts and stuff that we didn't need, so we cleaned it all up, and then there's just going to be a little overhang, that they mentioned for outside storage as far as the new building goes. So all that you're speaking of is gone, and it's going to be gone, and there's no room for it to come back.
so will there be outside storage or no? I'm just curious.
No, just under the overhang.
Okay.
As far as the new building
Right,
goes, the area
okay.
just under the overhang.
Right.
And of course,
So it'll be-
and then of course the original operation that's there.
Yeah, it'll be in the footprint of the building, correct?
Yes.
Now, you said the original operation, is there, I'm just wondering if there's outdoor storage for the original operation existing, correct?
Existing, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It's not really outdoor storage, right?
It's really outdoor activities. That's where a lot of the processing occurs,
It's more
is
of an
outdoors.
operational area.
Right, okay,
Yeah.
okay. Your,
Want me to zoom out?
can you make that smaller, please?
Maybe.
Okay, that's perfect, thank you. Now, the dark gray area there, what is that surface material? What is it where the trailers are being parked?
10-4, Mr. Chair. The dark gray is the portion of bituminous pavement that will be paved bituminous, and the light gray is existing gravel area to remain.
Okay, so in your spill area, it's gonna be gravel?
No, they are gonna, in the final work, once the plan is written, ESI is gonna make recommendations, and one of those recommendations will be that we put a concrete pad in that area.
A concrete pad in the area of the tank or the spill area? Your rectangle for the spill area? I'm hoping that you put something that's able to be cleaned up
Exactly, yep.
versus the gravel that's shown.
Exactly.
Okay, so can we get that detailed on the print?
Yeah, that plan and the exact design is being done. They're already engaged at ESI to do that.
Mhm.
So that's going to be reviewed by town staff. That's the way it was worked out with Inland Wetlands Agency.
Okay.
That plan will be developed in consultation with town staff, and then it'll be implemented in consultation with town staff.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's just a fueling area. I think it's going to be like 10 by 10 or something like that, that they're recommending. The licensed environmental professional from ESI is recommending.
Yep. Okay, thank you. the vegetation that's going to be removed for the 20-foot utility SWAT is, I saw, if you could bring up that, I believe what I see is abrevieties near the basin, correct?
Yeah, correct.
Is it going to be refilled in that 20-foot SWAT with vegetation? Are there going to be abrevieties there or anything else?
We are gonna put the berm back in.
Well,
but
and the berm
vegetation
is
over the utilities
a foot or
is-
two, right, at the most?
The elevation of the berm, it's more than a foot. We actually have a, where's the, somewhere, is our,
I'm seeing 75 foot for the berm, height, elevation. Yeah, well, what elevation is that, Daniel? I saw 75 feet.
There's 77 and 78.
Okay, that's substantial.
Also, you should,
What is it, about a 40-foot swath? I think I may have said 20, but I think it's more like a 40-foot swath there, right? Isn't that what you measured out?
Is it 40 foot or 20 foot?
Yeah. Can you give us a measurement on that? I think
I thought it-
originally it was mentioned
40? I thought it
40,
was
right?
20.
40. Yeah, I think it could be 40 feet from this.
and while they're doing that, please bear in mind that the building height is low. It's about half, I think it's 22 feet, Ellen? Yeah, 22 feet, and allowed is 40 feet. They have a lower profile building here.
Yep.
And the building itself will be doing a lot of the screening itself. We'd prefer not to put, we've elected to put the arborvitae beyond it, so to cut off the view into the yard. We'd rather not, we're going to reestablish the mound in the area where the utilities come through. We'd rather not put trees on top of the, in the area where the utilities are going. That's our preference.
Okay,
We usually don't plant trees over utility lines if we can avoid that.
yeah,
In case there's future repairs and stuff like that. Just like
Understandable.
the town's been removing along all our sanitary sewer lines all over town, they've been removing all the trees and shrubs completely because they
Yeah.
don't want them interfering with the lines down below. Because they can grow into them and all that stuff.
yeah. Staff notes say a 20-foot swath, but.
So it is about 38 feet here in this area,
Yeah,
and then it widens out to about 68, 70 here, but that is 38 is at this pinch point there.
yeah, okay. Thank you. Now, the fence that's there, I believe it's designated by that,
This dash line here, yep.
well, that's the existing. Is this the new fence?
That's the new fence.
Right.
Yep.
Will that have slats in it, or,
We are not proposing slats.
okay. And that's, is that a 6 foot or 8 foot? 6 foot?
It is currently an 8-foot fence, and we will continue the 8-foot fence.
Okay. Now, if you could, bring up, like, the plot plan. I want the area to the east of the building shown. It goes much further.
Oh, 10 foot.
Okay. Now, it's, let me get my bearings here for a minute.
That's Ken Jeski's building that we wrap around the site. It's about
Right, right.
36-acre site, with the exception of that land that had been sold off by the prior owner to Ken Jeski for his storefront operation.
Yep. So, this property goes all the way around that Connecticut storefront or whatever, correct? Yep. And there was another application across the street, but if it's ever needed to put like a rotary in between the Jeski building and the residential, is that something that the applicant's willing to give an easement for?
They haven't discussed at all what to do in the easterly part of the property. That's not on the table for them at all. And to give that up for an easement, is that what you're referring to?
Well, possibly like 20 feet if there was a rotary or something.
Oh, a rotary?
Yeah, a rotary for trailer trucks.
Oh. Give me a moment.
Please.
Any other questions in the meantime?
I don't think so.
No.
They don't know what they're doing with the balance of the property. They don't know what kind of impact they're doing. They have never discussed this at all. They're not in a position to decide on that at this time.
Okay.
This is not a subdivision application or anything. We're just talking about the westerly, we're talking, that's 15 or 16 acres to the east. If the town wants it, they'll talk to you, but they haven't considered that at all.
Yeah.
Until before that was raised tonight.
Okay, well, I figured I'd just raise it tonight and,
Okay, thank you.
okay. I think that concludes my questions, comments. So, this is on the floor for action if the commission would like to. Commissioner Wagner?
I move we approve application 22-36P, prime materials recovery. And we have standard conditions 1 through 12. However, condition 3, this application is subject to the conditions of approval of the Inland Wetlands Agency Conservation Commission, including bonds in the amount of $5,000 to ensure compliance with the erosion and sediment control measures, and $20,000 to ensure establishment of a stormwater system. And condition 4, a landscape bond in the amount of $5,000 is required and must be submitted prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy if work is not completed. Then the additional conditions 13 through 16. Condition 13, a deed combining the two properties into one building lot shall be submitted. The property address will remain 444 Nutmeg Road North. The 410 Governor's Highway address will be eliminated. The new building will be assigned the address of 424 Nutmeg Road North. The grading plan should reflect the trees to be removed along Governor's Highway for the installation of utilities. The berm in this area should be restored and plantings added. I think we did have a discussion of that item. Number 15, engineering comments dated November 8th, 2022 must be addressed to the town engineer's satisfaction. And condition 16, an emergency spill plan shall be submitted and reviewed by the town staff.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
I just wanted to comment that I think we talked about not putting trees on the berm.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I
Yeah.
will accept that modification to the
So your sentence will end with a period after restored, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And,
I'm good with that.
okay. Okay. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion, questions, comments, concerns? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Yep. Okay, our next. Yep, thank you. If you could, please leave quietly. Thank you. Our next application is application 22-37P, New Way Tobacco Company Solar Farm. Do we have somebody here to represent that application?
Hi, I'm Suzanne Choate, here to represent this application.
Sorry, I was just looking right past you. I apologize.
That's okay. The big crew left.
Yep.
I'll start all over again. Suzanne Choate, registered professional engineer in the state of Connecticut. I work with design professionals. I also have with me today Daniel Jameson and Eric Ness from Solbid, if we have any questions for him. So the solar field is proposed. Oh, how do I turn it on? It's warming up. Okay, I'll get that for you in a minute. There's an existing solar field at New Way Tobacco that was built in 2019-ish, so this is an expansion of that existing field. There are 7 rows being proposed, and the property is about 15 acres. I do want to add that if you haven't driven by there, they utilize sheep to mow the lawn. And I hear from the Wetlands Commission that they're friendly. If I knew that, I would have walked up and said hello to them, but I just admired them from the street. Yeah, I guess they have a cycle. They're there for a couple, 2-3 weeks, and then they leave, and then they come back. It's fantastic. I think it's fantastic. Anyway, that's a side note. That's all I have at the moment. I'm going to pass off to Daniel for a little bit more technical information.
Hello, members of the commission. For the record, Daniel Jameson, professional engineer, state of Connecticut, project manager at Design Professionals. And for the new Solbid solar project here at 200 Sullivan Avenue, the proposed development will change 1.03 acres from agricultural field to solar surface and impervious area, and 1.53 acres from agricultural field to grass. The entire area of the 2.56 acres will be planted with grass that will include underneath the solar panels. Final design objectives for water quality and stormwater management were based off the new 2020 Connecticut Deep Guidelines regarding solar arrays, dated January 8th, 2022. Essentially, these guidelines make recommendations on how to evaluate water quality and stormwater management for a solar array field. And the recommendation is when considering water quality, you consider the solar arrays as impervious surface and evaluated considering water quality volume recommendations. And then when considering stormwater management, you will just consider, understand that the area underneath the solar panels is grass. So what they recommend is that you take a one-step down approach to your hydraulic soil group, which basically considers the compaction of the ground while they install the solar panels. So it goes, so if it was an A-type soil, which wouldn't have a lot of runoff, it would go down to a B-type soil. So we did that here. And what we found was that going from agriculture to grass planted or grass seeded area, we did achieve a net reduction in peak flows. And as such, we just did a water quality basin along Rye Street for the sole purpose of providing the water quality volume as recommended in the new 2020 deep guidelines. With that, we did have some comments from town engineer Jeff Doolittle, and we have modified our basin. He commented on the 3-to-1 slopes that we originally had proposed. And with that, we have since elongated, this is the new plan is elongated basin to provide 4-to-1 slopes so that a car, if something does happen, it's not as abrupt of a transition. It is a more gradual transition. So we made that change, and yeah, with that, that about wraps up our presentation. Any questions? No, Suzanne has.
I didn't have the picture before. I'll just add that the chain link fence, existing chain link fence will be relocated. What can be reused will be relocated, and new fencing will surround. Ooh, you think this is easy? It's not easy. We'll surround the solar. We'll surround the solar array. So those are the 7 rows that are being added from the existing field toward Rye Street. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you very much. We will turn to our town staff, our Director of Planning, Michelle Light.
This is a request for a site plan modification for the expansion of the existing solar farm located at 200 Sullivan Ave in the industrial zone. This project is being proposed in conformance with section 7.20.4 for a small ground-mounted solar array. The existing solar installation at the New Way facility will extend solar arrays out to Rye Street. As we've been told, the site is currently an open farm field. It will be left grass once installed. It consists of 7 rows, approximately 360 to 520 feet in length. These panels will not exceed 12 feet in height. The solar installation will be approximately at the 35-foot building line along Rye Street, and the entire solar array is surrounded by a 6-foot chain link fence with mesh. I don't think you have any screening at all with this. It's just a chain link fence. I did want to share the sheep picture with the commission. If the commission recalls, when we first approved this, one of the things that you wanted to see was some farming to occur on the site, and at the time, James King said that he would bring goats or something like that. So when this application came back in, I sent Pam Oliva out to see what kind of animals she'd find, and sure enough, there were sheep out there. So they do have sheep out there. There is a small detention basin that will run along the front of Rye Street. It has been modified slightly at the town engineer's request, so it won't be quite as steep. I didn't know if there was any landscaping at all proposed. I don't see any in the plan, so I'm going to assume there's none along Rye Street at this time. The applicant has submitted an operation and maintenance plan. It appears all other zoning requirements have been met. There are no regulated wetlands on the site, but they did visit the Wetlands Commission for erosion approval, and they did approve that on October 19th with the requirement of a $5,000 erosion and sedimentation bond. If this application is approved, there are no other planning department modifications requested. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So at this time, we'll turn to commissioners. Commissioner Quarishi. Commissioner Carey.
Sorry. Okay. How tall is the fence?
I believe it's 6 feet, is that correct? From the pictures, I think it's a 6-foot fence, yeah.
That's all.
6 foot, yeah.
How's that? Okay, Commissioner Dexter?
Well, the only thing I have a question about is this basin along a fairly busy road. If it's dry, right, it's just this dry stretch of land along the road. And is there going to be any grasses, any wildflowers, anything to do something about how ugly that could be?
Yeah, we are proposing our wetland basin mix, our seed mix, and it does include wildflowers in the seed mix.
Glenn Martin with DPI. It's more of a general grass mix with, I think, 5 varieties of grasses. So it's meant more for erosion control, seed mix. But it will look attractive. It'll look more like a lawn.
Okay.
You know, and it can be mowed if
Okay, I
needed.
mean, my only parting comment is anything we can do on that road. You know, we've got a caterer across the way, and we want to make it decent looking, so.
Okay, yeah, we'll look attractive, like a lawn.
Commissioner Wagner.
So first of all, I'm delighted that you're putting more solar there, but I'm also delighted about the sheep, okay? Because actually, I'm the past chairman of the Energy Committee, and we've been trying to encourage people to put solar farms in with some sort of agriculture. And we've gotten a lot of negative feedback from the solar industry about sheep. So let me ask you a couple questions. Where are the sheep actually housed when they're not out there mowing the lawn?
My understanding is that they don't belong to New Way, that they rent them
Okay.
in some manner, so I'm not sure exactly.
That's exactly the answer I expected, so, okay. The second question is, how are they watered? Where do you provide the water for them?
For the sheep,
Yeah,
I don't know the answer, do we? The farmer takes care of that.
okay, fantastic. I've already forgotten your name. Would you please explain the comment about the pervious coverage with solar? Because the water all drains down onto the land, but you're required to take some impact from that. Would you explain that again?
Yeah, so the deep guidelines, it said to basically consider the solar panels as impervious for water quality volume, which for water quality volume, we take the impervious coverage and apply a rate to it, and basically assess what an inch of runoff would be on that impervious surface. So that is the water quality volume that we provided, but we didn't, with the other caveat on stormwater, it says you don't have to consider it for impervious in that manner because they do take credit for the fact that grass and vegetation can grow underneath the solar panel. So they say instead it's a hydraulic soil group step. So if you had a sandy clay or sandy loamy soil, you would have to consider it as basically a more loamy, less infiltration or infiltrative type of soil that would have more runoff. So.
Okay. So when we look at a solar array for pervious and impervious percentages, do we count the solar panels as impervious?
I don't think we've defined that in our regulations, so
Okay.
I think we probably have to think a little bit more about that.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Mr. Wagner.
Okay, Commissioner Foley,
No comment.
Commissioner LeBlanc, Commissioner Viteri.
Just a question, what will this increase the total capacity of the solar farm by?
Good evening, Eric Ness with Solbid. So this new system is a 937 kW DC system, which would generate about 1.1 million kilowatt hours on an annual basis.
And versus what's the existing?
I believe the existing system is a megawatt, so it's
Okay.
about the same size. This is a little smaller. To meet the new guidelines, it's a 700 kW AC system, so when they bid into the new program.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you. Commissioner Cavagnero.
I have no comment, thank you.
Excuse me for a second. Could you step back up to the microphone? Thank you. I just want to follow up on that solar question. The original system, how much, I'm wondering what percentage of like New Way's power was generated by the existing system and, what the expected new percentage would be, if you have that.
I don't have the calculations for that, but it is, I think they use a substantial amount of power on site. The system sizes are constrained really by the available room that we have to build the system and what the programs in Connecticut allow for in terms of system sizes. So that dictates to some degree what we can do. But I believe with these two systems, I'm going to say this might be a third of their load. Still, they're a pretty substantial user.
Okay.
I could check those numbers. I'm going kind of by memory.
Yeah, just from memory, I thought that the old system took care of like 20% of the power.
That sounds about right.
I was just curious.
Yeah, and that system was capped by what we could build at the time.
Yep. My only concern, the shallow basin that's being created. Could you detail that for me a little bit? It's very tough to see it from the drawings that we've shown or have been shown.
Well, it is right here.
And what's the elevation for that versus like the elevation for the road and the surrounding grass? Okay, there you go.
Road is at 83, the bottom of the basin will be 78. So essentially, well, the existing grade is 81 here, so about 3 feet deep from the existing grade. This is the existing 81 contour, yeah.
Okay, and it's appearing that the difference is about 5 feet. Did staff have any issue with that, or Public Works or anything, or?
Yes, and that's why they revised it. So this is a revision from the original. I think it was deeper originally. And so that was a comment that was given by Public Works and Engineering, and the revision is this, that's a shallower one, which Jeff Dool reviewed and is.
I'm hearing that town staff is comfortable with that.
Comfortable with
We're
the
not going to
revision.
see like a ugly metal guardrail or anything there?
Yeah, I think the concern was safety more than anything,
Right.
but I think that, is that something different that you're showing now?
So, Mr. Chair, this is the revised plan showing 4-to-1 slopes. So we elongated the basin along Rye Street a little more, and kind of just provided the 4-to-1 slopes to a more gradual transition, to provide a more gradual transition. And then here, we're not going as deep as 78 in this area. As you see, a 79 is a cutoff here. Then, it gets deeper as we go towards the final outlet, but it is still at 4-to-1.
And just so I get some kind of perspective, the road, the fence is like 35 feet from the road? Am I right in what I heard?
The side,
35, the panels start at 35 feet, okay? So the
Okay.
fence is going to be a little bit, well, 25 feet, because it's 10 feet from the panels.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
10 feet from the
I just want to understand exactly what I'm approving. Thank you. Commissioners, is there any other questions, comments, concerns? Then this is on for action if someone would like to make a motion. Okay, you waited long enough, Steve.
I move we approve application 22-39P, New Way Tobacco site plan modification. It's all standard conditions 1 through 9. Condition 3, this application is subject to the conditions of approval of the Inland Wetlands Agency Conservation Commission, including bonds in the amount of $5,000 to ensure compliance with erosion and sediment control measures. There are no additional conditions.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion, questions, comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Okay. You're welcome. Watch out for this slippery snow outside. Yeah, I can see it. Okay. Our next item on our agenda is application 22-39P, Royal House Chapel, Connecticut, TNC renewal. Good evening. And I think your microphone is off. If you could just hit the button at the bottom. Awesome. You're on.
Good evening. My name is Reverend Thomas Brew. I am the lead pastor at Royal House Chapel. We have been meeting at 52A Connecticut Avenue since March of 2010. And we were given a temporary and conditional approval from this commission to meet there, and it's renewed every 2 years. And so it's time for renewal, and so that's why I'm here tonight. It's a business kind of complex, and so we meet there Fridays and Sunday mornings. Our times of meeting are when the businesses are not there, and so the parking is never a conflict because, when they're there, we are not there. When we are there, they're not there. So it's worked out great for the last, 12 years, and every aspect of our operation is unchanged since we initially came in for our approval. And so I'm basically here to request another 2 years of approval from the commission. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll turn to our town staff, our Director of Planning, Michelle Light.
Thank you. So as indicated, it's a request for a renewal of a 2-year temporary conditional permit that was granted in 2010 for a church use at 52A Connecticut Ave in the industrial zone. It's a building, about 20,000 square foot building. They occupy about 5,000 square feet. They created a space with reception area, offices, bathroom, sanctuary with about 68 chairs in it. As indicated, they have Friday and evening and Sunday mornings. I think occasionally Wednesdays and Thursdays you had some opportunities. All services take place after the close of business. There are 32 parking spaces available. They meet our requirements of 1 space per 3 seats or 22 spaces. So we've never had any concerns expressed to us parking about this issue. The fire marshal and building department worked with the applicant back in 2010. I know the fire marshal goes in there periodically for inspections. Our temporary and conditional permit wording says that they may be granted by the commission for a period not to exceed 2 years. Such approval may be given after a public hearing if, in the judgment of the commission, the public convenience and welfare will be substantially served, appropriate use of neighboring property will not be substantially or permanently injured, and traffic and other hazards will not result from such use. Renewals can be approved by the commission at their regular meetings. If this application is approved, the planning department has no modifications to request. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Commissioners, Commissioner Cavagner.
Thank you. I do have a quick question. I usually ask this question a couple of times when we have temporary and conditional permits that we have to approve. Is there a reason why we've been issuing this as temporary since 2010? If I believe this is the 7th time this commission will be granting a temporary and conditional permit. Is there another way for this use to be permitted, per se?
Currently, in your industrial zone, which this is industrial zone, church uses are not permitted uses.
Gotcha. All right, thank you.
Commissioner Viteri?
No questions.
Commissioner LeBlanc? Commissioner Foley? Commissioner Wagner? Commissioner Dexter?
No.
Commissioner Carey? Commissioner Quarishi? Okay, then a motion would be in order. Commissioner Dexter?
Motion to approve application 22-39P, Royal House Chapel, 2-year temporary and conditional renewal. And since there's only 2, I'll read them. The temporary and conditional permit will expire on November 15th, 2024, and must be renewed prior to that time if the use is to continue. All freestanding signs and/or building signs require the issuance of a sign permit before they are erected.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion, questions, comments? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much.
See you in 2 years.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Commissioner Foley has to leave the meeting, so Commissioner Quarishi is going to be seated for Commissioner Foley. Our next item on our agenda is our review and/or approval of SLAM's proposal for updates to the Plan of Conservation and Development. I'll turn to our town staff. Michelle Light.
So I just want to make 2 comments. I have forwarded this to the town attorney for review. I have not heard back yet, so if you do go forward and move to approve it, I would make it subject to the town attorney's final review. I did have one comment that I gave the consultants, and I have some revised language. It's very simple that I'm going to add. My comment was just from the funding perspective, we currently have a 50,000 capital budget funded. The intent is that we would be looking for the second 50,000 in next year, and I just wanted that noted within the body of the language, just so that we're all, I mean, I think the consultants had told us that during the interviews, and they acknowledged that through their papers. So I did ask for that to be included. So I'm just going to pass this revised language. Again, it's what's highlighted in yellow. I didn't give you a whole new set. Other than that, I did review with our IT department the parts in there that talk about the GIS data that's required, and the idea of doing some story mapping with our GIS coordinator. They're comfortable with the language as submitted. So that part, you know, we had some discussions about how the website would be handled and whatnot. So it will be a joint effort between the town and the consultant. And Thad Demkowski in our GIS department's second to none. He's really great. So I'm confident he'll do a good job with us. He's the one that did a lot of the work on the COVID mapping. If you've ever seen the town's website on COVID, that's his handiwork. So I'm excited he'll work with us on that with the consultant. So that's all incorporated into the language.
Okay. So, Michelle, time-wise, is it prudent for us to wait for the town attorney, or just?
I think, you know, I had the town attorney give me some language to send to them originally, so I'm hoping that, if anything, it's minor changes. So I think you'd be, if you're comfortable with it, you could approve it subject to the town attorney's final review, and then if there was something of significance, I could bring it back to you at your next meeting if there's some reason you need to revisit things.
Okay, well, I'll leave that up to whoever makes the motion for that. So, commissioners, Commissioner Wagner.
I move we approve the agreement between the town of South Windsor and the SLAM Collaborative Incorporated for the plan of conservation and development review and update, subject to review and minor modification by the town attorney, and with the amended language provided.
Okay. So we have a commissioner. We have motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have motion and a second. Discussion. Commissioner Cavagnero?
Thank you. I was actually confused with the preliminary project schedule. I know when we had the public meeting on this, I think all of us were in favor of having at least 3 community workshops. I'm not sure why that's down to 2. I'd definitely be in favor of having more, and I guess I'm fine with having 2 workshops. I would just love to have more than 2 community workshops, maybe 3. I'm still in favor of 4. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay. Michelle, do you have any input in that?
I think it's written, the way it's written, that it's offering 2. If there's something that we want to have and we want to offer a third one, I think we would have to, the cost would go up to offer the third one.
Yeah. Maybe we could find out what the implications are for that, if.
Sure, what a cost would be to hold just another community workshop, sure. Okay. It may be depending on what you're trying to tailor it to, but I could get a general ballpark idea.
Okay. Commissioner Wagner? Oh, okay. All right. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Steve, do you want to modify your motion at all to address Alan's concern?
I didn't think, I mean, I guess he should make a motion if he wants to amend my motion, because I don't know what he's proposing to do.
Okay. Alan?
What exactly do you want me to say? I do want to make the motion, but like we just said, that may have some financial implications. So how do you want me to word this motion necessarily?
Maybe just ask them to explore the possibility of adding one additional session, and find out if there's any ramifications prior to us actually committing to it.
Okay, so yeah, I guess the amendment I would word it as is, explore an option for a third community workshop and also to research and find out if there will be any financial implications for adding a third community workshop.
Okay, so that's an amendment to the motion. Is there a second to that? Anyone?
I'll accept that as a friendly amendment.
Okay, great. If it's accepted as a friendly amendment, there's no need to vote on it, correct? Okay, so,
The second needs to.
okay. Do you have something else, Al?
Oh, no, I just wanted to make a note on what that friendly amendment sort of would look like. So I guess a hypothetical would mean if it comes down to it, and I think, let's say one party agrees that two workshops is fine, we can go back on that, but also a second hypothetical is if, we both come to a consensus that a third workshop is good, and the price we both agree to, we would be fine with that too. I assume the motion that I am making or the friendly amendment I am making would fall within that range necessarily.
Okay, thank you. So,
I guess I'm just wondering, do you want to see that in the context of the contract, or do you want me to ask that question separately and get a supplement question, like to hold a third public workshop, what would a cost look like? Is that what you're suggesting I
yes,
get? Okay.
if there's a cost associated with it, I'm not sure if.
And
the
I
other-
think in the context there, it does mention that if the town does want to do something additionally, they're amenable to do that, that there would be a fee involved. So I think in the contract, it gives us the opportunity to look for a third workshop. And maybe there's some trade-offs that we can look at to save some money and not have it cost us more.
Right, and there's
as we're going through the process.
Also, the two special projects, was it one or two special projects that they had mentioned in the contract? And
They talk about a special project area.
yeah,
Yeah, I know what you mean. Special focus area is what they call it.
3.1.
and was that additional, or
No,
that was included?
That's included in the contract, yeah.
All right. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion, questions, comments? Commissioner Viteri?
No, I was just going to mention that in Article 4.3, it says any additional meetings or public engagement, whatever, we could just ask for. It's just going to cost more. I mean, it's already in the contract. So I think it's fine.
So if it does cost extra, that's something we could always decide we're not gonna, okay, all right. Thank you for that. So back to our original motion. We have a motion and a second. No other discussion unless Commissioner Dexter's got something? No. Oh, okay. All those in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Chairman, if I could, assuming we can get this all squared away in the next 2 weeks, December 13th, which would be our regular meeting for December, would be targeted the meeting to have with our consultants to have the first kickoff meeting with the commission. Does that sound like that would be okay? They can do it that night, so
Yep.
if we can solidify the contract enough time, we'll aim for the December 13th being the kickoff meeting.
Fair
And
enough.
just a preview of next year, if I can, about this group, they have a lot of meetings they want to have with the planning and zoning, so if we can think about maybe a special meeting, the third Tuesdays of the month, that the room is free, let me just put it that way. We're going to have to commit to a schedule to really keep on track with what they're showing us here. So just some food for thought, and we can, talk a little bit more on December 13th on those things.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll get to, under old business, we've still got to appoint 2 representatives, so I just don't want to forget that. Bonds, do we?
I'll make a motion on the bonds. IWA/CC bond 20-56P Vintage Hills 2 E&S, amount $25,000, reduction $25,000, and a balance of 0.
Okay, since this is the same application, you might as well do both.
Okay, one was labeled stormwater, one was E&S, I'll do both. And then the second one is 20-56P Vintage Hills 2 stormwater, amount $20,000, and reduction $20,000 with a balance of 0.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? I'll second it. Any discussion, questions, comments? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Okay, we have minutes. Anybody have any issues, questions, comments on the minutes? If not, we'll accept them by consensus. Agreed? Okay. Then we've got old business. Michelle, did you have anything you want to?
We have the request that came from the clerk of the council related to the quad meeting. I think the first meeting is going to be November 30th, and then it's going to be the third Wednesday of the month from there on out. Caitlin can let us know for sure. She's got the
The
email.
first meeting will take place on November 30th at 6 p.m. And then moving forward, the meeting will be held the third Monday of the month at 6 p.m. with a
Third?
location to be determined.
Third Monday of the month, I'm sorry.
Third Monday of the month at 6 p.m. Location to still be determined. No, said third Wednesday, third Monday. The first meeting will be a Wednesday, which is November 30th. But moving forward, it'll be the third Monday of the month at 6 p.m.
Okay. Commissioner Foley called me earlier today and he said he did want to participate on this. I would like to participate on this. So it's the chairman's job to choose committee. So I'm going to point Commissioner Foley and myself to that committee. We do have one, I believe it would be good for us to appoint an alternate. And Commissioner Cavagnaro just put his hand up. I know, Mike, you had talked about it. And in all, I thought about this a little, and I'm going to appoint Mike because of his experience. That could help out. That's what I plan on doing. What else do you have for old business, Michelle? Anything?
I did receive a letter from Ali, and I'm not going to be able to pronounce his last name, but he runs the restaurant over there on Route 5. He owns a vacant piece of property, and he came in and wondered if the commission would entertain the concept of creating like a food park, or like food trailers in a semicircle on a piece of property as a potential development proposal. I'm not sure if it's something he's just kind of, we don't have any regulations that would permit something like that. That's something I would encourage under a temporary and conditional permit type application because there's too much infrastructure that might be needed or whatnot. So he did want me to see if it would be something that the commission would be interested in having a text amendment come forward on.
Any implications for like Board of Health or?
Well, food trucks are all licensed through the board, the Board of Health. So it would be, they'd obviously have to be licensed facilities. I look at it like a food court kind of park concept is what he's thinking.
Right.
Yeah, you have the fire marshal involved, they use
Yeah, I mean, we would go
propane
through, we'd have to create a text regulation for it and it would have, you'd want to have parameters and parking and, you'd
And
want
the
to
biggest thing
create.
too with that is trash pickup and all that.
Yes.
Yeah, it generates a lot. I've dealt with this on the state level in my previous job. But
The property that he has is the piece that's, I don't know if you remember the one we were looking at for the Cumberland Farms a couple years ago. It's that property. So there's still access of into the property still would be state controlled. So I mean, we wouldn't, it would have to be a site plan of, of some sort, because you're going to have to deal with all those kinds of access and any lighting or any of those kinds of things. But it really comes down to whether or not they use that kind of concept of temporary trailers for
Yeah, and
food court.
before he, oh, go ahead, Steve.
Well, Commissioner LeBlanc got one of my concerns about trash, but I think also he needs to address, if he's going to attract people, he's going to have to park them somewhere. So we need to understand the implications for parking that maybe go above and beyond what the restaurant requires on those nights when the food trucks are there, those days. So it strikes me as a difficult issue to consider the parking.
Yeah, this is a new site, though.
It's next door, I thought, though, isn't it? Is that what he's?
It's not
Down the
exactly
road a
next
little.
door. No, it's not adjacent to his existing property. It's nearby, but it's not adjacent.
He actually has a sign on Route 5 about it.
Yeah, it's a vacant piece of property currently.
All right, so I guess you'd work with him to, I mean, we don't have rules for how much parking he has to provide.
No, it certainly would be something that if it's something that you think is something you're interested in, I can certainly work with them and investigate what other communities might do and see, I just don't want to encourage him if it's something that you're not the least bit interested in seeing out there. That's really, maybe what I'll have to do, because I did hear something from someone that he's working with that maybe he just wants to park trailers there, so I don't know if this idea is, how serious he is about this idea. So maybe I'll reach back out to him and he and I can explore it a little bit and bring more information back to you on what we find, if he really wants to move forward with it.
Right, because we don't want to have him incur costs if we're totally against it. I mean,
So let me find out a little bit more, and like I said, make sure he's really wanting to pursue this, and I can see what some other communities do, because, food trucks are very popular, and so I'm sure there's some regulation somewhere I'll be able to find.
I know down by the New Haven Wharf, they have
Yeah, a lot of areas to deal with
a
them.
dozen or 20 at times, whatever.
I'm neutral on it, need to be convinced one way or the other.
Okay.
Okay, Commissioner Carey, did you?
Yeah, just one thing, I think, like they used to have them in Hartford prior to the pandemic, but they were transitory, so like, it's not that they stay there permanently, they leave at the end of the night or at whatever time. And I think that would be important, that you wouldn't want it to be like a place where we park stuff, but that it's a transitory thing where they come in and then they leave.
Okay, I'm not sure that's what he was thinking, but that's what I'll
And I would
look
check
into.
New Haven, and as I said, they definitely did it by the Capitol in Hartford, and it was great. We left from Etna a couple times and went there, because they had all these different ones, and they'd have, but transitory would be better than.
Okay, because I don't know if the one behind the daycare, I mean, that's his approved site, right? The food truck on Governor's Highway?
Yeah, I'm sorry, yeah, I wasn't sure. Yeah, there is one on Governor's Highway that's approved, yes. That used to be on the corner at the daycare. He's down the street, yes.
Right. I don't know if he's planning on staying there once, what's our gas station that is
Oh,
going?
Pride, that's under construction there, yeah, I don't know what
Once
his plans
Pride
are.
goes in, I don't know if he would stay there. This might actually be a possible location that he could go to, or, he could relocate someplace else. But I think he would need approval from us to go someplace else, correct?
Currently, vendors like that get a zoning permit.
Yeah.
If, the ones that show up on the roadside vendors, yeah. So we regulate those through regulations, yeah.
Okay. So that's,
I'll speak some more with them and we'll see where it goes.
okay,
Thank
thank you. Anything else? Any other business?
No, I think that's about it.
Okay. Hearing no other business?
I have something.
Oh, Commissioner Dexter?
Yes, I just want to let the commission know that traditionally, we have held a holiday party for all of us and spouses if you have one, or girlfriends, boyfriends, whatever. And this year, we cannot do that. So I'm suggesting that we put in our calendars December 20th. That probably would have been our normal date to do something, and we're going to try to figure out to do something on our own. So December 20th, more detail to come.
Thank you. Any other business come before the commission? If not, a motion to adjourn would be in order. Commissioner Cavagno?
Make a motion, we adjourn tonight's meeting.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion passes unanimously. Thank you, everybody.